Hello and welcome to a quick video on my top tips for surviving through a playthrough of All Quiet in the Trenches. These tips are related to the current update, version 0.7, the battle update, so if you're watching this video in the far-flung future, please bear in mind that some of this may have changed, and I will hopefully have an updated version of this video for you to watch, if it is so needed. So starting from the top and in no particular order, we have my first tip: give rations as a gift. Now, this can seem a little laborious at times, having to click on each individual soldier during every camp phase. However, I promise you, it is worth it. Keeping that positive event modifier at maximum can be the thing that swings your squad morale from bad to good. Now, you don't have to do this with double rations. If you only want to give your soldiers normal rations, all you have to do is you simply come over to the field kitchen, you speak to field cook Zelinsky, and you simply put your rations down to meager. All this will do is that when you then go and give your soldiers a ration as a gift, it will put it back up to standard, but they will still get the positive event multiplier because you have given them a gift. So it is a bit of extra work, but trust me, it is really, really worth it. Next, and I don't mean this as a bad pun, pick your battles. At this current stage in the game's development, there are a few things that don't matter as much or even at all compared to some of the other things. This, for instance, if we have Nurse Elizabeth, or even if we have the French village, both of these parts of the game have not been fleshed out yet. They are coming in future updates. So at the moment in the game, if you have bad opinion from either of these two sources, there isn't really a detriment at this stage. Also, some things that you need to do are situational. For instance, if you have really good supply and you know that the next supply source is around the corner, which you can find out by speaking to your quartermaster. That's Logistics Officer Hennick. If rats suddenly turn up to start nibbling on your food supply, this isn't going to be so much of a big concern. Whereas opposed to, obviously, if they turned up and he goes and says that rations and new supply are months away and your food source is looking a little bit on the wobbly side. So, that being the case, you could in essence ignore the rats for a turn and focus on other jobs to keep your people healthy and fighting fit. This also comes across with the field hospital. If you have a full field hospital, but none of your soldiers are injured whatsoever, you do not have to worry about emptying it out. Now, if you know you're going to go to a battle or a trench in a couple of turns, it is worth trying to start to move the hospital up the priority list then, because you generally want to go to a fight with an empty hospital, because maybe, and I say maybe because this game does have an RNG element in it, if you're lucky, when you come back to camp, the hospital will not be full. But, like I said, cross your fingers and hope for the best. Number 3, there are a couple of ways to try and reduce your workload. You can, in fact, ask the glorious Lieutenant von Karsbruck for a week off. Now, this does cost you a whole prestige level, and he may, in fact, just say no. If he says no, it doesn't cost you quite a whole level. I think it's maybe 3/4 or 2/3, but he doesn't like it either way. But it does remove every single job he's given you. So if you have okay prestige, but he happens to have assigned you with 4 or 5 manpower's worth of jobs, asking him for a week off will save 5 of your troops from having to do those jobs. Which means not only can you reassign them, some of them could even manage to get some rest in. This is also true for the laundry job. The laundry job comes up, you can actually get the French villagers to do it. Now, you might be thinking, but I've said their opinion doesn't matter. You can actually force them to do it at this stage, and it seems to just work from my admittedly limited experience, but I've never had them say no. Now, of course, once their update is fully fleshed out, this will, of course, become a lot more of a tentative and situational occurrence. And lastly, for the camp phase, if you have the opportunity, do a little bit of extra work to earn yourself that much needed prestige with the lieutenant. Now, this is basically, when I say if you have the chance, if you have soldiers in fairly good condition and they have nothing else to do, so you maybe don't need to worry about them recovering so much, get them to earn those extra brownie points, because you never know when they're gonna be needed. The lieutenant has swingable moods, let's just put it that way, and also you never know what could go right or wrong on the battlefield, also affecting your prestige. So if you can boost it when you can, take the opportunity. Now we move on to tips for the battle phase of the game. Firstly, and I can't stress this enough, don't be a hero. This is trench warfare, ladies and gentlemen, not a 80s action hero movie. It is designed to be punishing to your troops' health, both mentally and physically. So if you think you're going to solo storm the trench or be the immovable bulwark against the French flood, think again. Keep your troops safe, do what you can, but remember, you're not there to win the war on your own. Next, escort prisoners for prestige, but only if it's safe to do so. By this, I mean if you think the fight is going your way and you can spare a man, go for it. But be warned that whilst your soldier is escorting the prisoner back to camp, he is in effect missing. So try and weigh the risks and decide whether you think he'll make it back in time, but don't worry too much about battles suddenly ending anymore, because if you haven't played the new update yet, I can tell you the battle phase is much, much, much longer. Now, this segues into my next tip. Look for supplies as you're moving around the battlefield, because when I say they're longer, you are going to need these supplies to just keep yourself in the fight. If you watch my most recent series on 0.7, you will notice that I run out of ammo several times during a battle. I have to run around and try and find some. It is a marathon now, not a sprint. So, if you happen to be standing on a cheeky supply cache, you can get one of your soldiers to search in a couple of turns, because if you're already full, then you can't go above full. So maybe you can stand there and give some covering fire if it won't ruin your orders, and then you pick up the supplies and move on. Similarly, if you are moving forward and you have two spots to choose from, and they're pretty similar, because obviously I know there are a lot more factors when it comes to moving, cover, etc. Choose the one with the supplies, or simply keep in mind where the supplies are if you've seen them, but maybe as a future movement point that you can laterally, hopefully, move your troops or even move your troops forward into those positions and rearm them to stay in the fight. And so finally we come to my last tip. Choose when to throw your grenades. These are a finite resource, and they are also the best way by far to do damage to an enemy squad by a large, large margin. Whether you actually physically do damage to them or you simply scare them into running away, and so you break up the enemy squads. So when you throw the grenades, get a little bit closer to the enemy, get a little bit closer to one of your allied squads, have them in support so that it separates and moves around the enemy fire, so it is a little bit safer for you to get that one step closer, and then let those grenades fly. And hopefully you will have glorious effect. Try and use dexterous characters as well if you have them, and hopefully you will have a sea of blue running away. And so hopefully these tips will help you survive a playthrough. Hopefully it will help you get towards the end following these general rules. And now obviously, yes, it also comes down to situationally making decisions. I myself did manage to get 2 weeks from the end of a playthrough before actually losing my first soldier. So that should give you some rough indication of how these do help you preserve your soldiers. And so I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you have enjoyed it. And so until we see you again, as per always, I hope that you stay safe, happy, and healthy.